On the front of your Create board, you have a number of handy inputs and outputs. You have an infrared for remote control. You also have a light sensor that automatically adjusts brightness on the Create board depending on the conditions in the room. Next to that is a USB-C port for sharing content from an external device, but will also provide 65 watts of power back to the same device. The front of the device also has an HDMI input to go with another two on the side of the display. You can use the HDMI as well as the touchout to connect an additional touch device that will replicate the touch on the Create board. Finally, you have two USB 3.0 ports to connect additional peripherals or flash drives for more content. There is so much you can do with the LG Create board. On the back of the Create board, you have even more inputs and outputs to work with. First, right above the ports you have a plate that you can unscrew to insert a powerful onboard OPS. Then, below you have an RS-232 port for controllability. Below that you have two hardline Ethernet ports to bring connectivity to the display and daisy chain to an additional monitor for expanded viewing capabilities. Then you have two more USB 3.0 ports, giving you a total of 4 with the other two on the front. Next is another USB touch port and two more HDMI inputs. Finally, you have an HDMI out to connect to another external monitor, as well as a USB 2.0 port if you need it. The opportunities are limitless with this much connectivity. Also on the front of the Create board, you have two magnetic pen holders to keep track of those powerful accessories. Next to those, you have two front-facing, integrated speakers providing 15 watts of brilliant dynamic sound. Let's take a closer look at the screen on the LG Create board and see how it provides such a smooth touch and writing experience for you and your students. First, you will experience crystal clear images with the 4K Ultra HD resolution on a durable 7H hardness tempered glass display. This display is built tough for the demands of the modern classroom and tomorrow's learner. Not only is it rugged, the LG Create board offers smooth, low-latency writing and a natural handwriting feel, perfect for interactive lessons and note-taking. And with up to 20 simultaneous touch points, the Create board series enables lifelike collaboration and effortless group work. And as beautiful as the display is, it also offers advanced eye care technology, such as flicker-free function, which ensures user comfort even during extended use. There is so much you and your students can do with this versatile and collaborative workspace. Now Chris will take us on a tour of the functions and features of the toolbars and apps on your LG Create board. Take it away, Chris.
Now that we are looking at our Create board, let's take a look at some of our key features and settings before we dive into the apps. So up top we have our clock, and we can set our date and time from our settings. It's automatically set right now. We have our Wi-Fi functionality. Can connect to networks. Ethernet, if we are plugged in, we can actually plug in directly to the back of the device. We have our sound amplification. We have our screen brightness. And then we have the ability to switch to other devices. So I could switch to my PC on the other side. Okay, or as you saw, back to Android, which we're looking at, HDMI. If I have a Windows laptop or an iMacBook connected, I could do HDMI, Type-C, VGA. Okay. Up top, we have the Create board share activator. That's what I'm going to call it. I think it's great. CreateBoard Share allows us to share what's on our CreateBoard directly with our students and their devices. So if they have a Chromebook or they have a laptop or they have iPads, we can push what's on the device here to their devices. We have an entire module dedicated to the CreateBoard Share to teach you how to use it and look at some of the functions. So we encourage you to look at that. I won't dive too much into this, but this is what it would look like. And that's a screen broadcast, so I can broadcast to other screens. Students can also share to my screen onto the CreateBoard if I give them permission. And I can actually have up to 9 devices pushing to my board at any given time. What I like about that is students can visually display their work. We could do a gallery walk together. There's lots of great creative uses for students projecting their devices to the board. If students do have a device, a phone, can actually grant them the ability to control certain aspects, share movies to it, and so forth. So be sure to check out that module for everything. On our board, we have 2 sides of the board. We have a little dock here, and that's available on either side of the board. And we will unpack the dock section by section as we go throughout our discovery and our learning right now. Okay, let's take a look at the center section of apps here. So the center section of apps have been added over here. You'll see them there. And let's first take a look at them sequentially. So we have our Cloud Drive. And so we have Cloud Drive, which is Google's Google Drive on the cloud, or we can add OneDrive directly to our Cloud Drive. So this allows us to do a couple of things. One is to access files and images that are in our Cloud Drive, or to save files to it as we work and create images and recordings directly from our devices. So we also have a browser built in, and the browser, I'm going to minimize this really quick. So we can hide it, or we can go small, go mini size. We'll go mini size right now. Okay. With the browser, we have the ability to pull up a browser and go full screen, access the web, or we can go half screen and actually have multiple applications open at any given time. So as you can see here, I have Starship Mission to Mars, and maybe I want to pull up one of our other apps, the Note app. And so the Note app allows me to take notes directly on the board. And so I can be playing a video with my students and taking notes as we go. Okay. After we're done with the notes, I could actually save them. Save it to cloud storage. Okay. And I'm going to cancel that. I can also change a number of features. I won't go into all the features within Notes because we actually cover this in a separate module and lesson, but know that the notes are here, and this is a great way to take notes as we are looking at content in our classroom. Let's close that out. Okay, working through the rest of our apps, we have our Keeper, which allows us, if your system was somehow bogging down a little bit on this Android side, you can actually clear up the garbage, the junk files. We have our settings. Let's walk through all of the settings. We saw our wireless and Wi-Fi, Ethernet, Bluetooth. So if you're going to connect devices to it, you can do that there. You have input, outputs, so we have the ability to add speakers, Bluetooth speakers, or wired speakers directly to the device. We have our application management, which is on the Android side, and it's going to load. And so we have all sorts of applications we can add. I would say that adding applications to the Android side is probably not something I'd recommend. I would use what's built in, but know that you can. And then we can change the system settings. We can set a lock screen password. Okay, confirm that password. It's real secure. And close that out. Then let's see what else we have here. We have our switch to PC, so I could one click switch to the PC, switch to the other side. Yes, I do. That pulls up our PC side. Switch back. We have our LG Create Board Share. We can launch it from there, or we can launch it from an app. Then we have a few other apps. We have the Office Suite, which is not Office 365, but it does allow you to open Microsoft Word files, Excel files, PowerPoint files, as well as PDFs. And so it's built into the device here. Again, you could save files from your cloud storage and actually open them directly in the Office Suite as a quick and easy tool if you don't have that on your own device. Or you could, again, switch to the PC side and use the PC mode. Or if you're connected to a Windows notebook, or you're connected to a MacBook or some other device, Chromebook, then you could use that. Then we have the great feature. I love this feature. Actually, I'm going to save this best feature for last. I'll look at the palette. The palette is basically a drawing tool, and we can use it to draw on our board. We can change the settings and colors. And we can then save these files, share these files. We can do all sorts of things, but it's basically a whiteboard tablet. I think it replicates some of the functions we get in Note, but it's a little bit different. Let's close that. And then I said I saved the best of these apps for last. Let's take a look at Picture-in-Picture. And so Picture-in-Picture actually pulls over the Windows side, or if you have, the PC side, or if you have a HDMI device connected, you could switch to that, or a VGA device. And then if I click the touch functionality, I can actually navigate the PC side from within the Windows side. Look at that. I don't want any sound. Okay. So I can do that. Maybe I pull it half and half. And similar to what I showed before, I could bring up a note, and we could take notes side by side. So I can be looking at something on the PC side, taking notes on this side. So it allows me to access all sorts of content and apps that I may have loaded on a Windows device or a Mac device, and be able to put them side by side. Great tool, great functionality, great feature. It's a number of tools on our Create board, and I think these are some of the most useful tools in our classroom as we're doing things. So we have stopwatches. Stopwatches, very useful, very quick, built in. We have our timer, set that 3-minute timer, students get to work. As soon as that timer is done, we're going to split off into collaborative groups and work together. Okay. We have a spotlight tool, and so the spotlight tool allows us to free up distraction on the screen. And so I could free up distraction to look at text, a math problem, a video, or something else that I want my students to focus on. We have the capture tool. So let's take a look at what that looks like. We bring up picture in picture. And maybe we scroll the screen. We say, let's find something really great here. Look at that. Isn't that a neat image? Okay. Then let's capture that. And I can capture a region of the screen. Or the whole screen if I needed to. Save. Okay. Open. And then I can send it to my cloud drive. Or I could save it into my storage. I can also capture, let's do the same thing, insert it into a note. And once it opens in Note, I can crop my image. Round it, do all sorts of things, okay? And then I have it on my board and I can draw and do anything I want with my note tool. Okay. Then I have our freeze tool, which allows us to zoom in. And so let's take a look at zooming. So I can pull that up and zoom. Okay. Take a look at anything on our screen. Then I also have our writing tool, which is a writing overlay. And that allows me to mark up anything on the board. So anything I have on the board, I'm doing picture in picture right now, but anything that I want to draw on, take notes, this allows me to do that. I can actually then save what I just did, and it moves it directly into Finder. Great function, great tool. And then I can also share it directly on the screen. Students can scan that, or I can save it directly to my Google Cloud or my OneNote or OneDrive and be good to go. Okay. So that is the majority of the tools. The last couple of ones I would show are the screen lock. If I press screen lock, it's going to freeze my screen and I'll have to unlock it with a password. Okay. And then the last is, you can see it happening here in the bottom right-hand corner, is the recorder. So I'm actually recording the screen right now as part of this training video. So this is recording everything that's happening on our board. And so I can screen record, save those files into my Google Drive or my OneDrive, and then share them with my students, whether it's Google Classroom or Schoology or Canvas or any platform that you use, so students can revisit information that you shared and discussed as part of your lesson that day. And that is our LG Create Board overview. We hope you found this introduction really valuable, and you can see all these great tools that are built directly in to the device. Will really help you support your classroom and designing a more student-centered, human-centered classroom experience for your students.
Hi, this is Bo Beard, LG Sales Engineer, here to give you an overview of our Connected Care DMS or device management solution. LG Connected Care DMS is primarily focused in the education market. Within DMS, you can add devices such as our WebOS-enabled displays and projectors or our new Create board, the TR3DEK. The first window you'll see when you log into DMS is the dashboard. Now, the dashboard's a great tool to quickly take a look at your entire fleet of products and see if there are any issues that you need to address. You can see I have 16 devices that I've added to my DMS account. Within the device issue summary, we break it down between errors and warnings. Errors are typically a bit more critical and require you to intervene a little faster, where warnings are a little bit more like high memory or CPU utilization, so something just to keep you generally aware of. Directly beneath that, we have our apps that are in use, ranked by how many devices are using them and how often. You can see number one is library. Now our TR3DK is an Android-based solution, so a lot of these applications that you see here are based on the Android operating system. Directly beneath that, we have various breakdowns of errors that you may see. Luckily, my devices have been behaving pretty well, so I don't have anything to address at the moment. Directly beneath that, the schedule history. Anytime you set up schedules for the displays to adhere to, you can see a record of those occurring here. So that's a quick overview of the dashboard. Since we're here, I want to quickly navigate up to the top right to show you a little bit more before we go into the other pages. So alert messages, these will allow you to send an alert message quickly to either all of your devices that you have added or specific groups that you've created. You can see that you can create custom alert messages to send as you need. I'll show you how to customize those later in a different section of this solution. But this is a good way to send out emergency notifications such as fire warning or the event if there's an early dismissal due to weather at a school. Directly next to that, we have our FileBox. FileBox is a useful and unique tool to Connected Care DMS. Within the FileBox, you can see we have image, video, audio, file, and apps. So using your included 1 GB of cloud storage, you can upload a variety of content types that can be then deployed out to these displays. This can be a very useful, almost light content management solution in instances where you want to be able to quickly send out messaging to your devices. So you can see I have a couple example images loaded here for certain events that may occur at a school. That also includes video, audio. Files here would be typically either documents or something else along those lines. And applications, you can see it is limited to APK files at the moment. So your Create Board products that are Android based, you can add any APK files that you'd like to load on those displays here for quick deployment. So directly next to that, we have our notice board. Notice board is just mostly notifying you of any software updates that have occurred. So it's a good thing to check in on every now and then in case you need to update your DMS application. Finally, we have our account. So this is my account information. Yours will obviously look different depending on what email you've linked to the service. So, general overview of the first page of DMS. We'll keep moving on here. Next page is device management. Now this is where all the magic happens. Here you can see I have a few groups created along with a list of all the devices that have ever been associated with this account. So you can see I alluded to the wide variety of products that can be added here. We have some of our WebOS commercial TV and display products along with our new BU70 QGA projector. Directly beneath that, we have our TR3DK and TR3DJ Create Board products. Now within this menu, you can see I have the option to select all or even select just a select few devices. Once you do that, this unlocks various capabilities for you to utilize. So I'm just going to give you a quick idea of what that looks like. So say I select this product here. I can select broadcast, quickly send one of those file types we discussed earlier. This also includes live streaming. So if you have RTP or RTSP stream, for example, you can put in that information here and then broadcast it to the displays. We can also quickly take control and do some basic operation settings with the remote control function. You can see some examples of those here. These can be very useful for certain scenarios where you want to make sure that displays can't be touched or manipulated in any way for presentations. It's also a good troubleshooting tool if you need to quickly power off or reboot the displays, for example. Now from this device management tab, we also have the ability to go into the details section of individual devices. Here we can manipulate quite a few settings on the devices, so let's take a quick look. Now, if this device was connected, here in the Overview tab, we'd see a preview of what's being shown on screen. You can also see issue statuses related to this individual device. You can gather device information. This includes serial number. So if you have any troubleshooting that you need to do, you can get that information here to provide to our support team, along with the current firmware version, IP address, MAC address, etc. So this is a good insight into how the device is behaving and what information that's relevant to it. If you have APK files that you loaded into your file box and then deployed, those would be displayed here as well. From this Update tab, we have the ability to either upload a firmware update from a USB stick connected directly to the display. We can also upload that firmware file to our included 1 GB of cloud storage and select that here and push that update to the display. No updates occur automatically, but it is a good way to manage them in the event of some troubleshooting or updates that you need to take advantage of. Multimedia controls are fairly standard. These include changing the inputs on the display. So if you do need to toggle between that and want to do it remotely, this is where you would do that. Some more general configuration and control options. You can see we have power cycling. You can also create an individual device schedule. So if you have a device in a location where you want to be able to tell it to turn on and off at a certain time, you can configure that here. You can also do that on a much larger level to include all the devices or a group of devices. Bear in mind, if you do want to have remote power on capabilities, you do have to have the displays hardlined to utilize Wake on LAN to trigger that. Here's where you would actually be able to enable that Wake on LAN setting that I just discussed. We also have the ability to allow installation of unknown applications. If you do plan on loading your own APK files to our CreateBoard products, this is where you would do that. Now, one of the coolest features in my mind for DMS is this data cloning. So data cloning can actually occur automatically with all devices that are on the same network. So for example, you can unbox your first CreateBoard product, get everything configured the way you'd like it. This includes customizing the background, application layout, other settings such as that, and then export that setting data to the server. Once that setting data is found there, you can then set up, which I'll cover here in a little bit, you can set up an automatic import of that setting by essentially connecting your other CreateBoards to the same network. Then they'll automatically grab this setting file and apply it. The final section in this device details section is the history. So this will show you various issues that the display has run into over time. That includes CPU usage and various other things like that. One other thing I'll show you on this device management tab is the operations settings. So if we have groups set up, as I do here, I'll select my default group, for example. That's a quick way to get an overview of just the devices contained within that group. And you can see that within a group, we can adjust the operations settings. These operations settings allow you to set up a schedule. As you can see here, we have some of these displays set to turn on at 9 and turn off at 6. We also have various thresholds that we can establish. So this can be useful for IT and other administrators who want to set up email notifications in the event that there are issues with the devices. You can set this to trigger in the event of high storage usage, for example, so that you don't have a display have more issues down the road by filling up its storage. You can see you would just hit add here, fill in that information, and then those will be triggered when those thresholds are met. This is what I spoke about earlier, the auto cloning. So we can upload that settings file that we exported from our baseline display and then basically tell any other display that's added to DMS to copy those settings over. We can also schedule auto updates. I would advise caution using this feature. Auto update sounds like a great idea, and a lot of times it is, but I would strongly encourage any administrators using this to review any release notes before applying them to ensure they don't have any issues with applications they've installed or anything along those lines. So that's our device management tab. So next I'm going to move on to the schedule tab found directly beneath that. So here within the schedule tab, you can probably guess that here we can create schedules for various groups of devices to adhere to. Here you can title your schedule based on the location, group, etc., whatever works best for you. You can also set either a schedule that will repeat indefinitely, or you can schedule that to occur from a certain date and time. And here are the other options that we have. So you can also set up schedules for not only on and off, but disabling or enabling certain inputs, disabling the touch screen, certain brightness or sound levels, to install a certain package or broadcast a video or audio file. All of that can be done here within the schedule tab. So useful tool for creating a schedule for various forms of content or settings that you want to be applied during that time. Directly beneath schedule, we'll go into app management. App management is where it'll show you any APK files that you've uploaded to your file box. It's a good way to quickly see when the file was uploaded in the instance that there's an update for the APK file, along with its name, date, etc. Now, directly beneath app management, we have issue management. Now, we saw the issues that were being flagged on the dashboard when we logged in earlier. So if you do see any issues crop up, this is a good place to navigate to get a better view of those issues that have occurred previously. Directly beneath issues, we have administration. Now, this is a good section to be aware of because this will be something that you'll need to use to not only add other users to your DMS solution, but also to get the information you need to add a device. First, we have the profile section here. You will need to provide your password for each of these sections because it does give an overview of your entire system and represents a security risk. So we'll go ahead and log in here. And here you can see the information about your account. You can see user information. If you want to set up two-step verification, you can do that here as well, along with adjusting your password. Currently, we support Google OTP for two-step verification. You can set your time zone, the way you'd like your date to be viewed, and then your account number. Now, the account number is very important. When you're enrolling devices into DMS, you will need that account number to then add them to your DMS portal. Now, if you're an IT administrator or someone else who'll be managing the DMS platform, user management is very important as well. So under user management, you can see that I've had a few people added. I've blurred their name for privacy's sake. But here you can come in and invite a new user to join the DMS solution. So you can put in their email address, they'll receive an invite that they respond to, and then they'll be able to log in and manipulate these devices. Now, how much control you give them is entirely up to you. So you can see I can create a new user group. So for example, I currently have the default group. Let's create a new one and see what we can do. We can go ahead and create a new user group. We'll call this user group teachers. Now, we don't want the teachers to be able to do everything an administrator might be able to do, but here we can adjust that to our liking. So let's say teachers are allowed to broadcast content along with taking control of the device. So once we set that up, we can then assign various users that we've allowed into our DMS portal and give them the proper permissions that we deem necessary. So we can also adjust those groups within the user group settings. We can then navigate down to history. This will show you a record of everyone who's logged in, what their password is, the IP address where they're accessing it, etc. Directly beneath history, we have registration request. This section will show you outstanding registrations, emails that have been sent that haven't been responded to yet. You can see that all of my users here have responded, so I don't have any outstanding requests. The final section within Connected Care DMS is settings. You can get information on our terms of use and privacy policy here, the current version that's being released, and adjust your language. Thank you so much for taking the time to watch this video. Have a great day.
Hello, educators, and welcome to Lesson 1, the Note app for Android. In this lesson, we will be taking a look at the collaborative features of Note and the interactive tools that make it such a popular app. During this lesson, Chris will demonstrate how to use Note to utilize the interactivity of the Create board and take you on a tour of the features and how they can come in handy. Next, Chris will show you how to bring files into the space for notation. Then, we will take a look at how the split screen feature and the web browser can make a powerful team. And finally, we will be including a YouTube playlist for you to take a deeper dive into Note and the great ways to use it on your LG Create board. And now we will turn it back over to Chris to take us through our lesson.
Thanks, Alex. We'll now take a look at our lesson on the Notes app. The Notes app is a great tool for writing, marking up the page, and sharing information with our students quickly and easily. Let's take a look at launching the Notes app. We can do that from the dock on the side and selecting the Note app if it's there, or selecting the Note app from the desktop. Let's dive in and look at all the features. Once it opens up, you can see we have a number of toolbars across the bottom. We have our pen tool, and that allows us to modify the thickness. I'll demonstrate that in just a moment, or the different types of tools that we'll use. I use pencil, keep it thickness and black. We have our eraser, which allows us to erase different sections, clear all, rulers, shapes, all sorts of shapes and manipulatives that we can move around on the screen. Those are our 2D, those are our 3D, great for mathematics and helping students better understand concepts. We have the ability to insert tables. Why would we want to do that? Well, we may have students interacting with the board, coming up and interacting and doing specific things, and so we're going to add quadrants to the board. Okay? We also have the ability to do mind maps, and so when we are doing some creative thinking or we're working through a concept, such as, let's just use a great example here. I am going to insert text on monkeys. Let's say, change my font. Okay. And then we would want to use adjectives, and so we could say, or things that describe it. Live in forest or jungle. Have hair. There we go. Hair on body, and so forth. So we could do mammals, etc., etc. So we could be working collectively as a class on that. So let's go ahead and move that off to the side. Okay. We also have sticky notes, and the sticky note functionality is very similar to what we've seen in other applications like Jamboard or other tools that we've been using. And we can add quick notes. Idea 1, or maybe we want it to be connected to our thinking map. Mammal, okay. And we can change colors, we can do all sorts of things. And then we could also add a grid. And so we can do that directly on our board and move them around on the board. If I ever want to delete anything that I've added, I just long press it with the board and either delete it, clone it, or move it, or I can add text. So I'm going to delete these. So those are our main tools and functions. One thing I will note over here is that we can add additional boards. So we have one note page right here, and if I add another, I get a blank page. Okay? So when I do export this, this would export as all of those different pages. So then, the other thing that we would look at is our menu over here. In our menu, we can save our current file. So click Save, and it will save it to our Notes folder. Okay, I can name it. Click Menu. I can import images, PDFs, scalable vector graphics, or interactive whiteboard files from other systems. And similarly, I can export all of these things as an image or as a PDF, so I can add them into Google Classroom or any other place that I want to store any notes or things that I've demonstrated for the students during class. Okay. The other things that we should look at are the templates, and this is the background. And so we have the ability to change the color of the background easily. We also have a number of different layouts that are pre-done. Or if you prefer to create your own, you could actually create your own in something like Canva or another graphics program and actually import your own background for notes. Why would that be useful? Well, if you have particular KWL charts or different protocols or different resources that you use consistently, you could actually upload it and save it as a template. Okay. So that is the bulk of what you need to know for notes on the Create board. It's a great resources for capturing things in real time and taking information and change the font on that, taking information and capturing it on our board in a highly visual way. So I can take notes as I go. So note 1, note 2, terrible example, but the point being that I can have these two things side by side. My students can see the video, I can be taking notes as I go. I could pull up a mind map. Let's just erase this all and pull up a mind map, and we could be taking notes as we are watching something. So watch, pause, take a quick note, and so we're demonstrating that. The other part at the same time, and this is connected to Create Board Share, students can be seeing these locally on their own devices if they are connected and I am pushing the content to their device. So not only are they seeing this up close, they're also seeing the notes that I am taking through this process. And that's the Note app. It's a great resource for building knowledge, demonstrating ideas for students, and connecting students to the information. I'm now going to pass it back to Alex. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. And as promised, here are some resources for you. First, if you would like some additional training on the Android Note app, head on over to their website, where they have a lot of literature to help you out. And if you are more of a visual learner and would like to do a deeper dive into Note, we have put together a YouTube playlist for you to explore. We hope you had fun learning about whiteboard.chat. We will see you in the next lesson. Hello educators, and welcome to Lesson 2, the Note app for Windows. The Windows Note app is a bit different from the Android version, but they both have great benefits for our classrooms. In this lesson, we will be taking a look at the collaborative features of Note and the interactive tools that make it such a popular app. During this lesson, Chris will demonstrate how to use Note to utilize the interactivity of the Create board and take you on a tour of the features and how they can come in handy. Then, we will take a look at some tools you can use in specific content areas. And finally, we will be including a YouTube playlist for you to take a deeper dive into Note and the great ways to use it on your LG Create board. And now, we will turn it back over to Chris to take us through our lesson.
Thanks, Alex. Now for this next lesson, we're actually going to look at the Note 3 app on Windows. And this is a more expanded version of the app that we've also seen on the Create board. Let's take a look at the Note 3 app for Windows. You can launch it from the Finder window, or if you've pinned it to your tray, you can launch it from there. I've already launched it, so let's minimize and open the Note app. Let's take a look at the basic functions of the Note app first. So we have the ability to write directly on the page. And we can assign a size to our pen. And so let's erase that really quick, clear the board. You can also reduce the size of it. Low class. Okay, quick and easy, and if I'm using an actual pen for my Create board, it's even smoother, but I feel like I write really well with my finger. We have our eraser functionality, and we have the ability to lasso and move things around on the board. It didn't recognize it. Let's see if it can recognize this. And okay, create shapes. So once it creates shapes, I can actually move them around on the box. So let's see if it does that. Looks like it recognized it. So it's going to auto convert using a magic draw functionality. Can long press those. Oops. And actually move them. There we go. Double tap, and you can remove those at any time. The hand will allow us to move it around the board. We have the ability to move everything around on a board. These boards are very large, so we can move them around and find more space. Alternatively, we can add a new page to our board and we get all that extra space. So when we're looking at our board, we also have additional functions. We have this, which brings up a number of manipulatives for our board. So we have a math theme. We have a science theme. We have a chemistry theme. And we have a, there we go, that's the science theme. The first one was English. Okay, so let's switch back to our main board. At any time, if we ever want to switch back to our computer, we just press the computer button and it'll actually bring it back to our desktop. Sometimes we want to do that if we're going back to a browser. Okay. The other things that we have built into here are the ability to open files. So this will save it as a note file. Okay. We have the ability to open other files. We can import text files. We can import things from the clipboard. We can export, and we can look at our settings. So when I look at our settings here, we have the ability to change the default background color. So if we prefer all new tabs or new notes will launch in that blue color. We can also change our default drawing color. And we can modify our default font. So if you have a particular font that you prefer, you can select from some of the fonts in there to find one that's more appropriate for your grade level. And then for our font size, we can increase the font for our low vision learners. Okay. Okay, let's take a look at some of the tools that are built in under the treasure chest. And so the tools can be found under the wrench and hammer. And there are a number of tools that are pretty common that are useful for the classroom. So we have a browser, just like we have our web browser elsewhere. We have a writing board, and this allows you to put something on the screen and hide it underneath. Always great. We have the same thing with a mask, the ability to hide things and mask what's underneath. We have the timer, and the timer can be quickly set, 3 minutes to work, expand it, start that countdown. Then we can also screenshot that if we wanted to demo screenshotting. Screenshot, you can select an area, and this will actually add the screenshot to my note. So you'll see that. So let's close that out. And so you'll see now, that this is now on the board, or I could delete it. Okay. And the other tools that are built in are a mind map or a magnifier or a spotlight. And so the spotlight for hiding and, reducing distractions on the screen are really great. Let's hide that out. Okay, those are the kind of the basic ones that are built into there. But then we look at our subject tools, and this is our themes for the background of notes, colors, and you can use a color picker and enter in your hex code if you want to. You have the discipline backgrounds, which are, let's say, a graph paper or lined paper or even sports. We have teaching backgrounds, or you can even customize it to your own image, so you can upload it to the back of the note. Then when we look at the discipline tools are manipulatives. And so let's look at the atomic structure. We can actually drop that quickly onto the screen and move it around, and we can compare to. So let's see here. When we open up settings, it brings up the periodic table. And let's say we're studying nickel, and that will change that to nickel, and we can see the atomic structure of nickel. Then when we look at the other things, we can look at the periodic table of elements as well, and we can actually pull that up big and move that down. Okay, let's close that out. There are a number of other manipulatives here that can be modified and manipulated. So a good example here is our beaker, and we can adjust the volume within it. We can move it around on the screen, increase layers, so we could have this sitting on top of something else. And then there's a number of other ones in there, specifically for chemistry. Physics, we have a few manipulatives in here that you can use to support physics concepts. And then in math, when we look at math, we have the ability to actually write our math problems. So, I mean, really basic, but you see it converting it into a mathematical formula. We can insert it on the screen. We can increase the size of it, and we can move it around. So I could actually have these up here, and I could have two of them, students working through them independently or collaboratively in front of the class, or I could be modeling it as well. A couple of other functionalities, the draw function, compass, square, protractor, etc. Okay, so then when we look at the other ones, we have English, which we have a 4-wire grid. Okay, and then under more resources, you can actually add resources to your treasure box. So to recap, there are a ton of great resources built into the Create board that allow you to manipulate items on the screen, on the board for your students in real time, specific to your subject area. It's a really great resource, and we think you'll like it too.
Thanks, Chris. And as promised, here are some resources for you. First, if you would like some additional training on the Windows Note app, head on over to their website where they have a lot of literature to help you out. And if you are more of a visual learner and would like to do a deeper dive into Note, we have put together a YouTube playlist for you to explore. We hope you had fun learning about Windows Note. We will see you in the next lesson. Hello, educators, and welcome to Lesson 3 Google Slides. In this lesson, we will be taking a look at the collaborative features of Google Slides and interactivity on the LG Create board. During the lesson, you will see a few different ways to share a slide deck. Then we will go on a quick tour of the main features of Google Slides. You will also see some student artifacts made in Google Slides by actual students. Finally, we will be sharing some templates you can use right away with your LG Create board, including some interactive writing templates to help students practice and share their writing in real time. And finally, we will be including a playlist for you to take a deeper dive into Google Slides to learn more. And now, we will turn it back over to Chris to take us through our lesson.
Thanks, Alex. We're now going to take a look at our lesson on Google Slides. Google Slides is a digital tool that's part of Google Workspace that allows students to collaborate in real time. To launch it, we've saved a desktop icon for Google Drive. I'm going to launch that. And that will launch our web browser. And then to create a new slide, we can go to New, Google Slides, and that will create a new one. Another alternative is to type in slides.new into our web browser Omnibox, and that'll launch a new slide as well. Okay, now that we have our Google Slideshow started, let's give it a title. Okay. Now, when it comes to sharing, we can share through the Createboard Share, but you don't have the collaborative shared space experience that Google Slides can provide. So you can also share slides out using Google Classroom. If you're not sure how to do that, we'll include a deeper dive into Classroom as part of our resources at the end of the lesson. So what I'll do is I'll walk through a quick share. So with my students, I can share to individual students or groups. So we have the ability to share via email. And I can make that person a viewer, a commenter, or an editor, give them a message if I want. Okay. So viewer, they only have view access to this presentation. Commenter means they can comment, they could insert comments about a particular aspect of the presentation, but they can't edit. Or they can actually have edit access, and that's when I want it to be highly collaborative and students interacting. You can also just share a link to any individual. So right now it's restricted, but I can click anyone with the link. And they can view it, or they can edit it. And then I copy that link, and I share that link out via Google Classroom, or Canvas, or Schoology, or any other platform that I'm already using. So then, if I want to modify my theme, right now we've got a blank theme. I like it because it's clean and it's not distracting to students, which is a big bonus. But sometimes this simple light is the way to go, or you may want to go with a dark theme. I tend to prefer to go with blank slides, because students can then add the elements that they need to make the slides their own. Okay, let's take a look at some of the menu items and slides that help our students with collaboration. So there is the insert menu, and this is probably where the most things will happen. This is where we can insert things onto our board. Specifically, we can add images. So we can upload from our computer, which would allow us to pick files. We could insert from the web, and that'll open up our search functionality over here. And I'm going to find pyramid and insert that into my picture. So that's one way to do it. There is also the ability to insert from Google Drive, photos, a URL if you have an address on the web, or to take a selfie using the camera and the camera functionality. And so that will activate the camera if the camera is active on student devices or present on student devices, and they can take a picture and have that inserted directly into the presentation. We'll come back to the insert menu in just a moment. In the file menu, this is where we can share. This is where we can also modify the page setup. This is probably, to me, one of the most important functions, because I can actually do a custom. So right now we're in standard widescreen. Do a custom 5 by 11 if I want to do page layout size. If we're creating a newsletter or creating a brochure, if we have a project that requires students to create a brochure for their historical region or geography or anything sort of project like that, the 8.5 by 11 format works really well because it can actually print using the file print, and obviously you have to have access to a printer, but you can save that file as a PDF. So then you also have the view, and this is where we can show speaker notes, which are down below, or we can do all sorts of things like show a grid, we can snap to the grid, which will allow us to snap to items. We have the format menu, which allows us to format text. So we see all of the traditional things that we see in Google Docs. We have the ability to insert a new slide anywhere, slide, new slide, or duplicate, copy. I like Command C, Command V. That allows me to duplicate slides quickly if I'm creating slides for students, for enough students in my class. And I can change the background, apply a layout, perfect for a newsletter. I can also change the background to a different color on individual pages. Then on arrange, this is how we can arrange elements. I won't go too deep into this. There's some resources that we'll share with you. And then the Explore. And Explore allows you to, or helps you to, build beautiful slides. So as you're working on your presentation, it'll offer suggestions. Coming back to our insert, this is where we can insert those images as I shared before. Our text box, this is where we can add a text box and customize the font. Pretty small right now, but if I increase it, use the drop down, you can get that large scale font and actually move it around on the page. That's why I like slides so much, is that it's easily organized on a page, drag and drop. Works really well with the CreateBoard, works really well with students on iPads, Chromebooks, any device really. Okay, and then I can also insert video from YouTube. Let's find ancient Egypt. Okay. Okay, Ramses the Great. Let's insert that. It's going to insert that, and I can resize it. Okay. And I can have it play on click, automatically, or manual. So let's have it do automatically when it's playing on this page. I can also mute the audio if I wanted to. And perfect. So when I go into slideshow mode, it automatically plays. Okay. And then the other things we have is shapes. And so shapes are instrumental for creating great page layouts. So we have squares, circles, arrows. You can fill it with text. And so there's lots of great resources for Google Slides and all the things you can do with Google Slides. And we'll point to some resources that really help you. And then the other part of it is you can insert diagrams. So you have, let's go to a new page, insert diagram, and we can show relationships, which are similar to Venn diagrams. We can see all these things. And so we can just modify these. So they're kind of pre-formatted templates that allow us to modify them. So there you go. Okay, and now we'll look at a student artifact for an 8th grade English Language Arts assignment. They were reading the book Crossover by Kwame Alexander. It's a book about basketball. And with this particular project, students were able to take ownership and establish, take interest in this work. They did a really fantastic job of establishing ownership over individual slides. And so when we look at this presentation, we see that students took over their own slides and had their own slides, their own selfies, and they're able to take some ownership and then inject student voice into this process. These are great beginning types of activities to get students hooked into reading and the ability to really unpack a book and dive a little bit deeper into the hero's journey, the setting, the characters, and the conflicts or problems that are connected to that. And then one of the things that's nice is that when students are having their own individual slides, they're really able to stay focused on that individual slide, focused on building it, and they're not off moving around and doing other things. One great way that we like to use slides with the LG Create board is to change the background to a handwriting template in Google Slides. So to do that, we need to go to Slides, change background, and choose an image. In order to choose an image, you have to have an image. So let's go to a quick Google search and find blank penmanship practice paper. And I'm going to select this particular one. A nice one, it's just plain penmanship. And I'm going to browse. There we go. Okay. And get rid of the title. And this allows students to then write on it. So to copy a whole bunch, Command C, Command V. And that is, put it on the text box, Command C plus V on a Mac, or Control C plus V on a PC or Chromebook. And that'll do you correctly. And then students can work on these independently on the Create board or on a tablet or on a touch device.
I'll now pass it back to Alex, who has some additional resources for you to learn about Google Slides.
Thanks, Chris. And as promised, here are some resources for you. First, if you would like some additional training on slides, head on over to the Google Training Center and learn more about that powerful tool. If you are more of a visual learner and would like to do a deeper dive into Google Classroom and Google Slides, we have curated a YouTube playlist for you to explore. If you are looking for slide templates, you just need a simple Google search to find thousands of them ready to go for your classroom. We hope you had fun learning about Google Slides. We will see you in the next lesson. Hello educators and welcome to Lesson 6, Google Jamboard. In this lesson, we will be taking a look at the collaborative features of Jam and interactivity on the LG Create board. During the lesson, we will go on a tour of all the great features of the Jamboard app. Then we will explore the different sharing options that make it such a great collaborative tool. Next, Chris will demonstrate some of the great ways you and your students can interact with the Jam app on the LG Create board display. Then, we will be sharing some templates you can use right away with Jamboard. And finally, we will be including a YouTube playlist for you to take a deeper dive into Google Jamboard to learn more. And now we will turn it back over to Chris to take us through our lesson.
Thanks so much, Alex. We're now going to take a look at our lesson on Google Jamboard. This is one of my favorite tools that are part of Google Workspace. Students can collaborate in real time, and teachers can use it as a formative assessment or lots of ways to increase collaboration in their classroom. To launch Google Jamboard, you have a couple of options. I've saved an icon on the desktop that can launch it directly from our Chrome browser, or I can launch one directly from Google Drive. Once I'm in, click the plus sign, and we get a new Jamboard. Let's dive in.
Google Jamboard is one of my favorite Google tools built into Workspace that allows for collaboration, brainstorming, and all sorts of great activities with our students. It works really well with the LG Create Board, and so students can be interacting on their devices, interacting from the Create Board. You can be interacting on the Create Board, and everyone's seeing the same thing at the same time. So let's start a new jam. We'll title this one Ancient Egypt. Let's see if I can spell this correct. Okay, perfect. Now what you'll notice is that there aren't a lot of features. What I can do is I can make a copy of any jam that I want to. I can also save any individual frame as an image. So let's see what else we have up here. We have the ability to zoom. We can set our background, and you'll notice there's some prefabricated choices. We have dots, we have lined paper, which is, if you saw one of our prior lessons, that's built directly into Jamboard. You have graph paper for math, darker graph paper, and you can upload your own images. So this is great if you have a pre-templated layout for math problems or things like that you want students to work on, and you can actually bring it directly into it, and they can interact and write on top of it. Well, if we take a look here, I will set this back to plain. We have the ability to write on here, which is great. Works really well with our interactive touch. And write. We can also erase anything that we put on our board, or we can clear the frame. And we can move things around on the screen using the select. Now, where it's really powerful when it comes to collaboration are the ability to add either text box, and students can add them, I can add them. Another is the sticky notes feature. And so stickies, what I like to do is I like to have students write their student number or write their first name and write a thought. So for this one, I'm actually going to, oops. I wonder if it's hot in Egypt all the time. And so students can add different colors, and they can add their own thoughts, their ideas, their answers. Great formative assessment. You can also insert pictures from the web, from Google Photos, and so we can do a quick search and find some great images, insert it into there, and students can build a discussion around this. And we can do this collaboratively on the Jamboard and on our Create board. Move to the next frame. And so I can actually take students through a lesson, and I could pre-lay out questions on any of these pages ahead of time and have my students responding to my discussion prompts. So, why do you believe they built the pyramids in Egypt? And maybe this is a anticipatory set for my students who may have already been exposed to pyramids previously, and then we're going to have them answer with a post-it note. So we can have them interacting on screen. We can also add shapes if we want to. We have all sorts of generic shapes, math shapes, half circle, and we can go up to 20 frames. And so we can duplicate frames, which is great when we're creating think pair shares for our students. We may have small groups, and I can assign each group a jam to work on, and then I can move throughout it and interact with them. One great feature of Google Jamboards is the collaboration feature, and having me as the ed teacher be able to connect with students via the Create board or my computer at my desk or anywhere else in the classroom, and students being able to interact together collaboratively. In order to do that, I can do a couple of things. I can obviously take a jam and share it in Google Classroom if I'm using Classroom or Canva or Canvas or Schoology or any of these other LMS platforms by clicking share and changing to anyone with the link can edit, or I could share directly by email, and I can copy that link and done, and paste that into any platform that I want. I can also assign Google Jamboards in Google Classroom, and each student gets an individual board. The downside to that is typically that they're working independently. That's fine for some assignments, but when we're talking about collaboration, we want to make sure that they're interacting together in the same space. And so I would make sure to either share as an assignment a board that is collaborative by everyone in the class, or by sharing with a link. And once again, if I were to share with an individual, I can actually assign them either view access or edit access. There is no commenting access in Jamboard. Again, and send. And now he has access to editing this jam. On our Jamboard, we can do all sorts of things. As I've shown before, we have our multiple boards and we can quickly add them. But probably more importantly, here's the easiest things we can do. We can quickly and easily move things on the screen, and our students can see that interaction in real time. I add new post-it notes or new sticky notes to our screen, and it's there. Oops, let's close that out, cancel, and I can maneuver this on the screen. I can increase the size of it. So I can increase the size, shrink it, reorganize it. And so that's really important when we're working with students on brainstorming ideas, the ability to organize and move things around on the screen and concentrate our ideas or organize our ideas quickly and easily. The other thing we can do when we're over here is we can move our images around on the screen. So these allow us to reframe and organize text on the screen quickly and have a really dynamic collaborative environment where our students are adding post-it notes furiously. We then organize our thoughts and our ideas into more than one location together. And all of this is happening up here on the Create board. It's happening on the student devices, and everyone can see this happening in real time. So as our students are interacting on here, I can have a whole class. I can have 35 students, 40 students, depending on the size of your class, interacting in real time, adding post-it notes collaboratively together. That's a huge accomplishment, and the ability to organize visual information and ideas quickly together and collaboratively. The other thing I will note about Jamboard is there are a lot of great free resources out there, free templates, and Alex is going to provide you with a number of those resources later on in these lessons. So be sure to check those out.
As you can see, Google Jamboard has so many great features in it to support student collaboration in the classroom. I'm now going to turn it back to Alex, who has some additional resources for you.
Thanks, Chris. And as promised, here are some resources for you. First, if you would like some additional training on Jamboard, head on over to the Google Training Center and learn more about that powerful tool. If you are more of a visual learner and would like to do a deeper dive into Google Jamboard, we have curated a YouTube playlist for you to explore. If you are looking for Jamboard templates, you just need a simple Google search to find thousands of them ready to go for your classroom. We hope you had fun learning about Google Jamboard. We will see you in the next lesson. Hello educators, and welcome to Lesson 5 of our collaboration series, Pencil Spaces. In this lesson, we will be taking a look at the collaborative features of Pencil Spaces and a few of the more than 150 features in the app. During this lesson, Chris will demonstrate how to share a pencil space with students to unlock the collaborative features. Then he will take you on a tour of the features, but not all of them since there are so many. But don't worry, we will have plenty of resources for you at the end of the lesson. Next, Chris will show you how to connect apps like Google Drive to make collaboration easier and more robust. And finally, we will be including a YouTube playlist for you to take a deeper dive into pencil spaces, as well as a list of tools we have put together for specific content areas to make them easier to find and use. And now we will turn it back over to Chris to take us through our lesson.
Thanks, Alex. We're now going to take a look at our lesson on pencil spaces. Another whiteboard tool that allows our students to collaborate on their devices, project them into our Create board, and work on their collaboration in real time. Let's launch Pencil Spaces and take a look. All right, let's dive in and get started.
I have my pencil space here, ChatGPT, friend or foe. It's a question and we'll be discussing it in our board. So I can invite my students by making it public and copying the link and pasting it directly into Google Classroom, Canvas, Schoology, or whichever platform I'm using, or I can invite people independently. So once I've invited some people in, okay, I'm going to invite a participant, or as a host, participant. Okay, we're going to participate in here. We can take a look at our functionality. So for board one, we have the ability to pan. So we can move our canvas. These are large pixel canvases. We have our pen, and we can increase the font size. This works really well on our LG Create board. And what's your opinion? Oops. Not as fluid as I could be. You don't want to see my cursive. All right, so you've got what's my opinion, your opinion. Okay, I'm going to have students use some of the other tools, not just the writing, but we could use a text tool. Okay, and font can be modified to different fonts, as well as size. Okay, color, so forth. Not so exciting. But once that text has been placed there, others can comment on it and give feedback and say, yes, I agree with that, or no, I don't. Great feature, very similar to some of the things we see in Google Slides, Google Docs. Okay. Then there is sticky notes, and so we can post a sticky note anywhere. Okay, I'm just going to cite all the the textual evidence that people have out there. Okay, I'm afraid it will eliminate jobs. And so you can see we can do all sorts of interactive components in here. And if we were doing math, we could incorporate new shapes, all sorts of different things. And so let's take a look at the boards, and we can add another board. So very similar to what we've seen with whiteboard chat, we have another board, and we can insert those shapes directly on the page. Okay, then let's take a look at some of the other things. Then we have our formula editor. And so the formula editor is utilizes either LaTeX or keyboard or drawing. And so let's see if I can do this. X equals 3 plus y. It's pretty basic algebra. But you can see up there it did. Done. It's going to insert it directly in here, and it can be increased. And so I could take this ostensibly and duplicate this across the board and have my students coming in and interacting and actually working on problems independently or collaboratively, depending on how many problem sets that I identify. So that's the basic functionality of Pencil Spaces. The other thing that I would add in is that there is real-time chat that can be monitored in here. There is also apps, and so the app functionality incorporates lots of Google tools, as you can see. So we can import from Google Drive, we can run an interactive poll, I can set a stopwatch or more appropriately, a timer. And so students would see this across any board that they're working on. Okay. And then there is chat with ChatGPT. Let's take a look at it. It's incorporating ChatGPT, new chat in there. Now that may cause some concern for some people, so I would not incorporate it into there. There's also Nearpod and math manipulatives, and so we can look at all the sorts of different resources to drop on our board and make our math that much more interactive. There's also, these are all pro tools, so many of these are free, or there's some free ones and many paid ones. There's a periodic table, a graphic calculator, and other ones that are in there. So that's just a quick overview of Pencil Spaces. And as you can see, it's another great tool for your toolkit for interacting and collaborating with students with your LG Create board, as well as their student devices, or even potentially having students come up and work independently if you have multiple Create boards spread across the space.
And as promised, here are some resources for you. First, if you would like some additional training on Pencil Spaces, head on over to their website where they have a lot of literature to help you out. If you are more of a visual learner and would like to do a deeper dive into Pencil Spaces, we have put together a YouTube playlist for you to explore. Finally, because there are so many tools on Pencil Spaces, we have put together a list of 10 tools for each core content area that we think could come in handy. We hope you had fun learning about Pencil Spaces. We will see you in the next lesson.